So, I know there are tons of divine farming videos available right now in the internet, but I still wanted to share to you my best divine farming strategy. When I say best, this means that you invest one exalted orb at the very least, and you will profit one guaranteed divine in 15 minutes, or depending on how much zooming speed you have in your character. The second method is farming a specific Pinnacle boss, but not wasting any entry on it. Think of it as a farm that pays for itself and rewards you more. Okay, I know you are eager to know this divine farming method, so let's start with number 1, which is the Trial of Sekhemas. Now, this divine farming strategy doesn't require you to face the final boss of the trials, and you will only need to run the third floor of the trials, or specifically finish the Trial of Cunning. Once you kill the Scorpion boss in the third floor, all you need to do is go take the portal to the trials, click the pedestal, and then retrieve the Test of Time Barrier. This piece of coin will sell for about 3 orbs of annulment right now, which equals to 1 divine. In my case, I can run trials with my gemling in about 15 minutes in average. So that's about 4 guaranteed divine orbs per hour of farming. I know some of you will think that it's easy for me to say that because I already have maxed out my character. But to tell you honestly, I started using this method as early after I got into endgame. Do remember that you don't need to be at maximum on your gears to run this farming method, as you will only need to defeat the boss in the third floor of the trials. Also, there are other ways to help you not fail the trials, and that is by investing on relics that grants honor resistance. Now, honor resistance works the same as any other resistance in the game, and it's capped at 75%. You can buy from other players using the in-game market, and they are fairly cheap. So, best advice that I can give those new players is to save up a couple of exalted orbs they got from campaign, and spend it on acquiring honor resistance relics. To be honest with you, running at early endgame stages of my character did not felt as a speed run. It felt slow at first, since I needed to carefully go through traps and gauntlets. This is the thing with Path of Exile. It's not always zooming, as you need to power level your character first, and in my opinion, the Trials of Sekhemas is a great start to get those gears that you need for your character. If you do have enough earnings already from running Trials of Sekhemas, my second best advice is to buy movement speed relics, as this will improve your speedrun in the trials. Other relic bonuses such as dodge roll distance and maximum honor resistance will be great if you can have them, but the main bonuses you should focus are 75% honor resist and then movement speed modifier. Your damage and survivability will be taken care by your gears and skills, and will further get improved once you earn divines using this method. Based on experience, a big portion of players who are buying the Test of Time Barrier are evasion-based characters. I can see most of the time Deadeye and other rangers rushing on my market vendor the moment I have a Test of Time Barrier in my store. While I think this is not necessary for more endgame characters, but I also strongly recommend that you avoid the Iron Manacle's Affliction that will disable all your character's evasion. There's also the Sharpened Arrowhead Affliction that removes all armor bonuses of your character, but honestly, I think evasion is more important. I have a Test of Time Barrier once that was sitting in my shop for days. It was a part of a batch of Test of Time Barriers that I put on the shop, and it was the only one that sold the last. My theory is that it got the Iron Manacle's Affliction. So, best avoid this negative modifier if you can. Also, Test of Time Barriers that has the Blunt Sword Affliction tends to sell slower, but it's really not that slow compared to the Iron Manacle's Affliction. Overall, try to avoid afflictions that will give the player inconvenience as much as possible. With this in mind, make sure that you also avoid those afflictions that will increase trap damage or make them faster. But again, it just affects the time that the barrier will be sold, but players will still buy it, especially those crazy speedrunning Deadeyes who got plenty of evasion rating. They just walk through all those traps like a ghost. The only downside of making divines from Test of Time Barrier is it gets boring quick. Also, you can't use this strategy when you are in solo self-found. Anyway, I have no plans of going SSF anytime soon because honestly, it's really fun to play this game in the Standard League. The truth may hurt, but as a new player, you really need to grind for currencies as fast as possible if you want to test out all the cool things that are included on this new rise of the Abyssal League. And yes, Those characters which are considered as best league starters are really needed, and most veteran players start playing them before switching to the character that they want to play. I'm not saying all, but a huge chunk of the community will agree with me when I say that all things open up and will be fun once you have stack of divines in your stash. The Trials of Sekhemas farm can give you those divines that you need to improve your build, farm better, and get more divines for your next playthrough. But if you are bored like me, then I have another farming strategy, but this involves you to get more power level first, as we will be facing Uber xesht for this farm. Now, you can stick with the Sekhemas farm, as it will guarantee you divine in 15 minutes if you have all the relics and gears to speedrun the instance. But like I have said, it gets boring, and I need that dopamine boost. By the way, before I decided to make a video about this farm, I also tested the other Pinnacle bosses. Also, just a quick view of my Atlas tree, as a proof that I have completed all Pinnacle boss encounter at their max tier. Obviously, we will not be discussing the Arbiter of Ash here, as his area cost a lot of currency to enter, but could potentially yield you with nothing in return. Ulroth is a potentially good farm, but the runic splinters also cost a lot, and yet again, this Pinnacle boss may leave you with trash in the ground that doesn't even sell for exalted orbs. The best so far is the King in the Mist and the Breach boss named xesht. For the King in the Mist, it's a great farm since it has chances to drop those new omens that sells for decent exalted or chaos orbs. But again, the chances depend purely on RNG with a bit of help from your item rarity stats. I can say that xesht, the final tier of this Breach boss fight, is the best farm because the farm pays for itself. What I usually do is buy Breach splinters from other players through the in-game market. This will cost an average 50 exalted orbs, but market prices fluctuate, remember? And you might see higher or lower values when you use this method yourself. Now, I say that this farm pays for itself because every time I do 2 runs of this boss fight, I'm ensured that I have 50 exalted orbs from that 2 runs to buy a full stack of Breach splinters again. This is because this boss encounter also drops Breach catalyst, and each run, it is guaranteed that you will get both Esh and Reaver catalysts, which are the most popular right now in the Third Edict update. These 2 catalysts will be enough, and most of the time, you will profit more exalted orbs from selling catalysts alone. And this doesn't include the loot you got from killing all those Breach monsters, and the final boss in this encounter. Speaking of loot, this is where this farm is exciting and less boring compared to other Pinnacle boss farming. First, this Pinnacle boss drops Breach Ring, which is the most popular rings right now, due to the fact that their quality can be enhanced up to 40%. These Breach rings from doing this boss encounter over and over again have made me a lot of divines. If it weren't for my large spendings, due to I have tried a lot of stuff before arriving to my final build, then I would be close to getting 100 divines right now, just by doing the trials and this Pinnacle boss encounter farming alone. And get this, both these encounters are great because they guarantee that you will get earnings from your effort. So, what is the best Breach rings to sell for? Well, after farming and selling, I honestly can say that it really depends on what the buyer needs for their build. For example, a ring with flat physical and elemental increase, paired with rarity, total resistances are great choices and can sell for more divines than other rings in the game right now. Just for common reference, you can check out what are people selling in the trade chat right now. And as you can see, these are mostly flat damage increase, percent increase in elemental damage with rarity, or even defense modifiers such as flat evasion. But just to be clear, it's 1 in a million chance to drop these rings on this Pinnacle boss encounter. In most cases, these rings are crafted, and the owner of these rings have also spent a couple of divines just to get these stats. If you are lucky to hit just 1 triple elemental damage boost rings, then that could sell for a couple of divines and can start your flipping business. But in my case, I really love to kill stuff and get loot. I will do crafting later on, but I enjoy farming Pinnacle bosses right now and farming their loot, which made me a couple of divines in return. Now, aside from the trade chat, I also strongly recommend using the Sidekick app, which is a third-party website that will show you and compare the prices of your loot. I know that there's the in-game market, but to be honest, Sidekick is way better since you don't need to open and close the app. Simply click Ctrl+D on the item, then check the stats, and it will show you similar items and their prices right now. It's really a handy tool, and I have been using this app while farming the Breach boss. Sadly though, I think this app is only available on PC for now. So, for console players, the in-game market is your best bet. By the way, before you decide to throw away those Breach rings that don't sell for a lot, I would like to remind you that there's also the Recombinator that lets you combine 2 rings. You can choose a stat from both rings and combine them to one. Just remember that it costs Black Scythe artifact, which you can farm from expedition instances in your map. Well, you also have the option to buy it with Exalted orbs as they are cheap. Don't be like me, that just combine rings blindly, as there's also an Omen of Recombinator right now that increases your chances of success. Use it if you want, or if you have enough currency to spend so you can get the perfect ring that you want. Breach rings aren't the only one that are worth farming in this Pinnacle boss encounter. The boss can drop Controlled Metamorphosis Jewel, which sells for decent Exalted orbs if you have the large ring allocation for it. It drops new lineage support exclusive from the Breach Lord, but it doesn't sell that much though. Other drops include a perfect Exalted orb, which you can convert to Exalted orbs and get more value to either spend or convert to Divine orbs. Perfect Regal orb can also drop on the boss, and as well as Divine orbs. It also can drop high-tier armor and weapons, and in fact, I have sold a couple for a hefty number of Exalted orbs. There's also one that I sold for 1 Divine, and I just added an Exalted on it to increase its price value. The boss can also drop this Grand Project Precursor tablet that can be sold for 2 Annulment orb right now. And finally, it can also drop amulets, and the best one I sold so far was an amulet that has plus to energy shield, flat evasion, and a +3 to projectile skills. I sold it for 12 Divine, and it's really a bummer that you can't show the stats of the items in your trade history right now, as I would really like you to see the stats as your reference on what to sell. But as you can see, most of my trade history involves things that you can farm from xesht and annulment orbs, which I got from the Test of Time Barrier. I'm spending most of my time farming xesht right now, and I can say that this is one of the best endgame activities to earn divines without investing currencies. It just takes effort, just like the trial of Sekhemas. Most divine farm will require a lot of luck, although these 2 endgame divine farm method also requires luck, but it doesn't require you to spend more than what you can. You spend a couple of Exalted orbs, and you get higher chances of getting more in return. I strongly recommend you trying out these farms, and if I discover more, rest assured that I will share it to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on my next guide.